The town thinks you died in that fire. They all blamed you. Hell, I blamed you. Clara nodded slowly. Her voice was barely audible. Good. There was a beat of silence between them, heavy and awful. He stared at her wrists. Rope burned. Her hands were shaking, but her back stayed straight. She wasn't begging. She wasn't crying. You have any idea what that fire did to me? He asked, voice thickening. To our name? I lost everything. Everything except this horse and a piece of dust that used to be a home. You lost me too, she said. That was the point. He turned away. The world around him blurred, sun too bright, wind too sharp, the trail stretching behind them like a memory he never wanted to revisit. He remembered her locket. He remembered the letters. He remembered crying in the rain because he couldn't cry in front of people. And now she was here, alive, waiting to die. He climbed down from the saddle and walked slowly toward her. She didn't move, didn't flinch. What happened to you? He asked. Clara's eyes filled with something, not tears, not quite, but a shine, like her soul had started leaking through the cracks. I did what I had to do, she whispered. Back then there was no other way. I made a deal. The kind of deal you don't walk away from. Mason stared at her. You think I deserve the truth now, after all this time? No, she said. But our daughter does. His stomach dropped. What did you say? Clara's lips quivered, and for the first time, she looked scared. You buried me. But you never buried her. You just didn't know. He staggered back again, hand gripping the side of the wagon. I lost both of you, he whispered. Don't you dare say her name. I didn't leave her, Clara said, suddenly desperate. I sent her away before it all happened. I thought I could fix it, but the fire came too fast. They wanted me dead, Mason. And if they knew about her... He stepped forward, eyes wild. Where is she? I don't know anymore. That broke him. The wind blew louder. Somewhere, a hawk cried above them. The trail suddenly felt like the edge of the earth. You should have told me, Mason said. You wouldn't have let me go. He stared at her face, pale, sunburned, tired. But still hers. The same Clara who laughed in the wheat fields. The same Clara who once danced barefoot in the kitchen when it rained. He had memorized her absence. Now her presence made his bones hurt. I was ready to hang you, he said. I know. I still might. I hope you do. He turned back, then looked away again, like the truth was too big to fit in his chest. God help me, Clara, he whispered. I don't know what to do with you. Just do it, she said. Whatever part of me you loved, it died a long time ago. He leaned on the wagon rail, breathing hard. His knuckles were white. His eyes stung from more than just the sun. Then he did something he hadn't done in 7 years. He cried. Right there in the open road. In front of the woman he once vowed to love until the end. The woman who returned from the end, just to ask for it. Clara didn't look at him. She just sat still, waiting for the mercy she thought she deserved. But Mason wasn't ready to give it. Not yet. Not until he understood why the woman he buried had come back. And what ghost she brought with her. The wagon didn't move for a long time. Mason stood in the dust, watching the road stretch out ahead of them like some cruel joke. He didn't know where to take her anymore. To the sheriff like he'd promised? To the gallows like the wanted posters demanded? Or back home, to a place that hadn't been home since she left it burning? His jaw clenched as he walked around to the back of the wagon. Clara sat motionless, shoulders stiff, head tilted down as if even the sunlight was too heavy to carry. You gonna keep riding with that sack off? He asked, trying to sound cold. I don't care, she said. He tossed the burlap aside. Good. 'Cause I'm tired of ghosts hiding in sacks. She blinked. Her lips parted slightly like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. He climbed back into the saddle and gave the reins a sharp flick. The horse started forward, slow and steady. Clara swayed with the rhythm of the wagon, her hands still tied tight. For the next mile, neither of them spoke. The sky stretched above them like it might swallow them whole. Dust rose behind the wagon wheels in lazy spirals. Somewhere off in the hills, a coyote called. Mason tried not to think about their daughter. He had buried that memory deeper than any grave. It hurt to imagine her alive all this time, somewhere. If you sent her away, he said finally, then why didn't you come back after the fire? I couldn't. You could have written. Left something. I did. His head whipped toward her. What? I left a letter with Old Man Turner. Told him to give it to you. Mason's fists tightened on the reins. Turner died 2 days after the fire. Shot clean through the chest. You didn't know. Clara's face crumpled. No. You left my life in the hands of a drunk and a bullet, he growled. I didn't have choices, Mason. I was running for my life. You should have run home. She looked down. Her breathing hitched, but she said nothing. They crested a small hill, and down in the distance, the silhouette of a water station shimmered in the sun. Mason steered the horse toward it, saying nothing. They stopped under the awning. An old windmill creaked. He poured water into a tin cup, then hesitated. For a moment he looked at her, really looked. Her lips were split. Her cheeks were dry. The sun had left marks on her face. He handed her the cup. She took it with bound hands, sipping slowly. You still drink like a bird, he muttered. You still watch everything, she replied. A strange silence fell between them, not cold, not warm. Something broken in the middle. Mason leaned against the wagon. The windmill squeaked behind him. Do you remember the day we met? He asked. Clara looked up slowly. The barn roof had just collapsed. And you were throwing hay bales barefoot. You thought I was someone's wife. You said, I ain't owned by no man. Mason smiled despite himself. Then the smile faded. What happened to her, Clara? That girl? That fire in you? Clara looked away. Her voice was barely audible. She got burned up with the rest of it. Mason exhaled through his nose. I don't believe that. You ain't made of ash. You're still here. You're still fighting. She met his eyes then. You think this is a fight? Mason, I came here to die. He shook his head. Then why warn me about our daughter? Clara's voice cracked. Because she doesn't know who you are. And if something happens to me, she deserves to know. The truth. The real truth. And what's that? That I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I loved you too much to drag you into it. Into what, Clara? He snapped. What were you running from that was worse than watching me bury you? She hesitated. Then, with a shaky breath, she said it. The sheriff. Mason stared at her. What? He wanted me. Before you and I ever married. He followed me town to town. Said if he couldn't have me, no one could. When I chose you, he started rumors. Said I was part of the gang that burned down farms. That fire. He paid them, Mason. Paid those men to burn our place, then blamed it on me. He said he'd kill you if I didn't disappear. So I ran. And I made them think I died. I didn't know Turner would die. I didn't know you'd break. Mason backed away, like her words were bullets. He'd spent years hating a ghost. But now the real devil had a badge. I should have known, he said bitterly. All those nights he came by asking questions. All that talk about keeping the peace. He's still looking for her, Clara said. Mason's voice was low. Where is she, Clara? I sent her north. To Montana. To a woman I trusted. You said you didn't know. I didn't until last week. I heard from the woman. She said our daughter's coming back. She's 16 now. Headstrong. Like you. Mason blinked, eyes wet again. He didn't know what was worse, the weight of her betrayal or the hope in her voice. He walked back to the wagon slowly. His boots kicked dust with every step. We're not going to the sheriff, he said. Clara flinched. Then where? Mason climbed up beside her. We're going to find our daughter. Before he does. She looked at him, eyes wide. And after that? She asked. I don't know, he said. But you're not dying until I hear everything. Clara nodded, slowly. Fair enough. Mason looked at the road ahead. It stretched like a scar across the land. He flicked the reins, and the wagon moved forward. Behind them, the windmill creaked. The desert watched. And somewhere, far beyond the hills, A young girl was coming home to a story she didn't know she was part of. The sun had begun to sink, casting long shadows across the road. The golden light didn't soften anything. If anything, it made the truth look sharper. Clara hadn't spoken in over an hour. She sat still, her fingers twitching against the rope like her skin was remembering what freedom felt like. Mason didn't look at her. Not because he didn't want to, but because every time he did, it tore something inside him loose. The daughter he thought he'd lost was alive. The woman he thought had betrayed him had been trying to protect him. And the man who promised to uphold the law had written his family's death sentence. The trail grew narrow. Trees crept in along the edge. The scent of pine mixed with the dry dust of the desert, and birds scattered above them like nervous messengers. Mason stopped the wagon beside a dead cottonwood. He tied off the horse, climbed down, and unfastened Clara's wrists. She winced as the ropes fell away. "Get some water," he said. "We won't reach her before nightfall. We camp here." She rubbed her wrists silently, then took the canteen from him. He gathered wood. She watched him like she didn't quite believe she was still alive. As night fell, the fire flickered between them. Mason sat on one side, staring into the flames like they held answers he couldn't say aloud. Clara sat across, knees pulled to her chest, sleeves rolled over her hands. "Mason," she said softly. He didn't look up. "I didn't just come back for her." His eyes slowly lifted to hers. "I came back for you too." He didn't respond. His silence was louder than a gunshot. "I knew you hated me," she said. "I would have hated me too. But the truth kept eating at me. Every mile. Every breath." "You think a few words change what I went through?" he asked. "No. But I had to say them anyway." The fire popped. Mason leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I went into that house after the fire," he said. "I clawed through black ash with my bare hands. Thought I'd find your bones. I kept digging even when my fingers bled." Clara covered her mouth. Her eyes filled fast. "I buried a burned-up dress and a locket," he said. "Didn't even know if it was really you. But it was all I had. I wore that dress so they'd think it was me," she whispered. He nodded slowly, his jaw tight. "Smart," he said. "Cruel, but smart." Clara's tears streaked clean paths through the dirt on her face. "I never stopped loving you," she said. Mason looked down. "You should have." She stood slowly, walked to him, and knelt in the dirt just beside the fire. "I didn't come back expecting forgiveness. I didn't come back to be saved. I came back because, if I died without telling you the truth, I'd die a coward. And our daughter would grow up thinking her mother was a villain." He stared into the flames again. "She already has a father who is." "No," Clara said. "She has a father who raised himself from ashes." The quiet between them swelled again. But it was different now. Less sharp. More sad. Mason reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the chain he hadn't touched in years. The locket. It was bent. Blackened at the edges. But still there. "I kept this," he said. "Even when I hated you, I couldn't throw it away." Clara reached out, touched it softly. "I gave it to our daughter," she said. "Before I left. She wears it too." Mason's voice caught in his throat. "Does she look like you?" Clara smiled through the tears. "Only in the eyes. But the stubborn jaw? That's all you." He let out a small laugh that sounded like it hurt. Then he froze. The sound came fast and sharp. A twig snapping in the dark. Clara's body stiffened. Another sound, closer. Mason grabbed his rifle. He crept around the fire, his boots silent in the dirt. Then a voice. "Evenin', Keys." The voice sent cold through his spine. The sheriff stepped into the firelight, 2 deputies flanking him, guns drawn. His face was clean-shaven, smooth. Too smooth for a man who did the things Clara described. Mason didn't lower the rifle. "Long ride for a campfire?" The sheriff smiled. "Long time chasin' ghosts too." His eyes flicked to Clara. "I see you found your little runaway." Mason's grip tightened. "She's got a name." The sheriff chuckled. "Yeah. So did a lot of people she left behind." "She didn't kill anyone." "Tell that to the judge," the sheriff said. You got two choices, Hayes. Step aside and let justice do its job. He paused. Or get in the way. Mason didn't move. Clara stood slowly behind him. She came back to clear her name, Mason said. You think I don't see what you're doing? The sheriff's eyes narrowed. You've always been too soft, Mason. That's why she picked you. That's why she ruined you. I buried her once, Mason said. You think I won't bury the truth now? The sheriff stepped forward. You gonna shoot me, Hayes? Mason raised the rifle. If I have to. The silence between them stretched long and deadly. Then Clara stepped forward. Let him go, she said. Take me. Mason turned to her. No. I'm not letting you get killed for me, she said. Not again. The sheriff grinned. Well, that's sweet. Ain't that sweet? Then he raised his gun. But Mason was faster. The crack of the rifle echoed through the trees. The sheriff hit the dirt, groaning, shot clean through the shoulder. His deputies froze. One dropped his gun. The other backed away. Mason stepped forward. You'll leave here with your life, he said. But you come near us again. I'll bury you proper. The deputies dragged the sheriff away, bleeding, cursing. And then they were gone. Mason turned to Clara, breathing hard. I told you, he said. You don't die until I hear everything. Clara stared at him like she didn't know whether to run or fall into his arms. But she didn't run. And he didn't lower his hand from hers. Dawn broke slow and golden, brushing soft light across the trees, the trail, and the two broken people who had spent the night in silence beside a dying fire. Mason sat awake, elbows resting on his knees, eyes fixed on the horizon. Clara slept lightly beside him, her head resting against the wagon, the ropes long since discarded. The bruises on her wrists were healing, but not the ones on her heart. Those ran deeper. He watched her breathe, steady now. For years he had dreamed of this face, sometimes with love, sometimes with rage. He'd imagined confronting her, screaming, demanding why. But now that the truth was out, he felt something he never expected. Not the quiet of giving up. The kind that comes when your heart finally stops running. When Clara stirred, Mason poured her a tin cup of warm water, handed it to her like a habit he never forgot. You always made the best coffee, she whispered. He smiled faintly. This ain't it. They both laughed. Soft, tired. And then she looked up at him. Are you still angry? Mason thought for a long moment before answering. I'm angry at the years we lost. But not at you. Clara's eyes welled up again. But she didn't look away this time. I didn't know if you'd believe me. I still don't know if I deserve that. It ain't about deserving, Mason said. It's about truth. And I believe you now. I see it in your face. The pain never left. She nodded. I never stopped missing you. He looked away. Me neither. The wind stirred around them, warm and dry. They packed slowly, wordlessly, like people who knew each other's rhythm without asking. Clara climbed into the wagon, and Mason took the reins once more. By mid-morning, the road forked. One path led toward the county courthouse. The other, north. Mason stopped the wagon. He turned to Clara. You sure she's there? Clara nodded. I have the letter. She said she'd be waiting at Miss Lorna's by the mill. He stared down both roads. Then without another word, he turned the horse north. The trail twisted through the hills. Trees gave way to open sky. The land felt different now, lighter, like the truth had lifted the weight off the earth. They reached the old sawmill just before noon. The building leaned with age, but the garden beside it was alive with green. Clara climbed down first, her hands trembling. Mason followed, his boots silent in the soft grass. And then they saw her, sitting on the porch swing. Dark hair, sharp eyes, locket around her neck. She looked up, puzzled, curious. Hello, she said. Can I help you? Clara froze. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Mason stepped forward. Your name Lila? She tilted her head. Yes, sir. He tried to steady his voice. You know who your mother is? I was told she died, she said carefully. Clara stepped forward. She didn't. The girl stared. Clara's voice cracked. Lila, it's me. There was a beat of silence so heavy, even the birds stopped chirping. Then the girl's face twisted. And she ran. Clara broke down, tears streaming, her body crumbling as Mason caught her. But then, the swing creaked. Lila had stopped halfway to the house. She turned. I read your letters, she said quietly. Clara looked up. I kept them all. Even though Miss Lorna said they might not be true. She took a slow step forward. Are you really her? Clara nodded. Lila stepped closer. Clara held out the locket from her pocket. It's yours. Lila looked down at her own. Identical. Her hands shook as she reached forward. And then she collapsed into Clara's arms. They held each other like the world was ending and beginning all at once. Mason stood back, silent. But he was crying. Because for the first time in 7 years, he wasn't alone. That night, they stayed in the mill house. Lila sat beside Mason as he taught her how to sharpen a blade, how to hold a rope right, how to make coffee that didn't taste like old river water. Clara laughed for the first time since the fire. It wasn't loud. But it was real. And it was enough. The next morning, Mason sat on the porch as the sun rose again. Clara joined him, 2 mugs in hand. Still think you should have killed me? She asked, teasing. He took a sip and smirked. Too much trouble now. Clara smiled. And for the first time, they didn't talk about the past. They talked about planting things. Building a new fence. Teaching Lila how to ride. They talked like people who still had something left to live for. Mason leaned back in his chair and looked at the sky. I thought I lost everything, he said. But some things don't stay buried forever. He reached for Clara's hand. And this time, he didn't let go. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart even a little, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story like this one again. You never know which one might change your life.